afternoon. Welcome to Nigeria Now, where we discuss happenings in the country. And then we will record that yesterday was the inauguration of the 47th president of the U.S., talking about President Trump, Donald Trump. And we see that part of the executive order he has signed include even America going out of the World Health Organization. And we're seeing that they're coming out to actually ask the president what really is the problem and why does he or why have he decided to see that America will be going out of it. And the reason Donald Trump has given concerning that is because he said America is paying higher than even China and the likes that are part of the World Health Organization. So all fingers are crossed. Let's see if the president will reverse concerning that executive order. We're also going to be looking at what's happening here in Nigeria, talking about the tanker explosion, as well as even the Nigerian Communication Commission, approving 50% of tariff hike, talking about telecommunications. So quite a number of conversation this afternoon. So please do well to drop your comment, your views, as they are always welcome. I am Sela Lashidasho. I'll do this program together with Rachel Tansey. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Sele.
All right, now let's move into the discussion, and we'd love to start with the tanker explosion that took place during the weekend. On Saturday, there was an explosion, we recall, and then I think as of Sunday, the casualties we had were just about 86. But as of 12 p.m. yesterday, we saw that the casualties have actually increased to about 98. That is to say that more people who were injured actually died. We saw that about 80 or so were already given a mass burial, and then we're seeing that the number have increased. And I know we started a conversation, or that has been the story that have been on the lips of most Nigerians regarding the fact that are we going to liken this explosion to hardship, or are we going to liken this to carelessness from either maybe the company that was transporting the petrol or the gas, or are we going to link it to even the state government, because everybody is looking for who to point, the accusing finger on the fact that you are responsible for this. I mean, for Nigerians that were present or the passersby that were present there, question will be such as, what were you doing when you saw that something such as petrol was there? Why was the generator present, to actually transfer the petrol from the tank and then to another container? So many conversations regarding this, and then we've seen that the federal government, as well as so many other governors, have actually related with the government of Niger State, because this happened in Suleja around Diko. And then we've seen that quite a number of people are actually either a death for a family or a community and all of that. And looking at this number actually dying in the interval of 3 days, let's say from Saturday till yesterday, is really, really a sad one. I know we started a conversation together with you.
Yes.
I think yesterday or so, when we're seeing that the number actually increased. I think the reason why I'm bringing this conversation back is the fact that we can't say there's too much of trying to raise awareness regarding what Nigerians are supposed to do. We keep seeing what even the federal government saying, what you can do when you see such thing to avoid being a victim. But I just want us to have an interaction regarding this tanker explosion that took place on Saturday.
Sele, let's categorize it, okay? An empty tanker falls, nobody is wounded, the driver is not injured, and all of that. We can fault it on bad road or the driver not driving properly. That is one category of blame. Now, a tanker falls and then it's loaded with petroleum. It falls, and then sometimes there might be no leakage. We can still leave it on the bad road, and probably the driver not maneuvering well. So we can say bad driving or bad roads, depending on where the tanker falls, because we've seen tanker incidents, tanker falling where the road was not bad. We can talk about that happened in Jos. The area where that tanker was plying was a smooth, clean road, and if it's not for the carelessness of the tanker, that tanker has no business whatsoever falling. We can attribute such to poor bad driving and something like that. Okay, fine. A tanker falls fully loaded with petroleum. and then it explodes there and then, and probably the driver a little bit, or it's not always the driver that is in the car. The people, those in the truck dies, and then a few passerby, let's say death toll 5. You know what, we can blame it on bad road, bad driving, or the company, whatsoever might be the case. But you see, Sele, a loaded tanker cannot fall. Loaded with petroleum, no immediate exploitation, and then 98 people, as we are seeing today, who could have run away from the scene and do whatsoever it takes for no spark to happen, so that no fire will ignite, run towards this tanker, and then we are having this massive death toll. For this death toll, we cannot sit down and blame it on bad road, because bad road has nothing to do with these 98 people. We cannot blame this number on the tanker falling. We cannot blame this on the company. We cannot just sit down and look at it as if this death toll was as a result of the company, as a result of the tanker falling, as a result of bad economy. Because you know what, there are people who are also suffering that do not go close to the tank. So if it was an issue of bad economy, I think everybody in the community will rush to it, because we're in the Nigeria together, and we can say, okay, poverty is what is making all of us act in a savage manner. Perhaps the death toll will be the entire community, because everybody will be there and all of that. So we have to analyze this properly. If it happened differently with the different scenarios and how I try to categorize this the best way I could, we can say, okay, we can point fingers left, right, center, and say, this is the problem, here it is, and there, and all of that. We saw former President Muhammadu Buhari giving advice and say, do not go close to these tankers when they fall. And even when we started this conversation yesterday, we said, Sele, you and I are the same person. Tomorrow, if we are moving in, well, luckily for us, a tanker falls and it doesn't explode immediately. I will run opposite direction. I believe you will do the same. If I happen to have a gallon and I successfully take 20 liters of gallon and go and sell it, will I have money for transportation to work the next day and all of that? Maybe for a whole week. There's that possibility. But no, there's also a higher risk of that tanker exploding. Anything can happen, and I will die alongside with that jerry can, and there will be no work for me tomorrow in my life. So, I mean, we are living in the same environment, the same Nigeria, where people will run away from certain trouble. At the same time, people go. So there are a lot of factors, but for this huge number of death toll, I think we can cancel every other reason and say this number of death toll is simply but the factor of our mindset, of how we decide to behave and all of that. We can remove every other factor from it and say, for this kind of number of people dying when it couldn't have been like that, then they brought it upon themselves. As sad as it might be for this family, as difficult as it might be for us to accept, nobody in whatsoever manner deserves to die in such a way. But there are certain deaths that we can say people brought it upon themselves because there was danger. This tanker did not explode immediately. You understand? To say you were trapped and there was no way. It didn't explode immediately. Your activities caused this tanker to explode, and therefore whoever would take the blame for their death, whoever went with that generator, you know, trying to use the machine, how they do with irrigation, just imagine our mindset.
We didn't want the petrol to waste.
But you have no business whatsoever with it wasting. Some of these companies have insurance and all of that. And if the driver can come out with a good excuse and reason, paperwork, it is the road, potholes, this, there are insurance covering
Maybe
this.
the brake fails and all
Exactly. So you have no business whatsoever in whether the petroleum is wasting or not, but it's mostly because of our own selfish reasons and the awoof mentality. And it not only runs belly, but it takes you to your early grave and all of that. So I just hope that Nigerians will learn. I think that is the message more than anything. While the government is trying to, you know what, stop these tankers from plying during the day. We have states implementing such policies, while we have the road safety making sure that, you know what, these drivers are driving properly, they are well licensed, these drivers are sane and all of that, while we are trusting others to do their own, to play their role in this, in road safety entirely. I think we also have a big role to play, most especially in something that we know can be can be avoidable. Yes, sir.
Honestly, it's very sad, because I mean, just yesterday I was like, every life matters. I think we've been saying this, so we're not going to say, okay, it's just one person. It's
Yes,
just
we
because
can't.
we have gotten to that point that when we see that the number of people who die is actually maybe just 2 or 3, like, oh, thank God, it's just 3. But I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking about people's life here, in as much as we're saying for this one, even about 20 shops or so
Yeah.
were also being destroyed. So we're talking about, good word millions and millions, maybe running into billions of naira that were actually consumed. Anyway, we're seeing that NEMA have actually, step in, distributing relief materials in food, and other materials that can actually help the affected victims. And I think we saw some of the pictures. I mean, those are some pictures that
Doesn't look
you don't
good.
even, if you don't really have the mind to look
If you
at
have
it,
the
don't
stomach
look
for
at
it,
it,
don't look
because
at it. Yes.
it's not some, we know what it, where we're talking about burns. I mean, and it gets even 2nd or 3rd degree burns.
Yes.
You know what that means. It will take a while for some of these victims that are in the hospital. We saw where
They
the
might never
president,
recover
they
some of
might
them,
never
yes.
recover some of them, and then I cannot even imagine some of them that will be disabled totally
Yes.
as a result of this. We're seeing the federal government saying that they should be moved to tertiary, where they can get care properly. So some of them, basically most of them right now in the FCT, in various outlets over the hospitals, trying to get the needed attention they can get. But we cannot overemphasize anything you can do to avoid it. Please do. If the tanker is falling, whether it's just 10 kilometers away, if you have the way to even move further,
Yes.
you know that explosion doesn't just take place within. It has to
trail
escalate.
where the
Very
oil is,
true.
yes.
So we should try as much as possible to avoid that. Now, another thing that is on the minds of Nigerians right now, Richard, is affecting you. It's going to affect me. It's going to affect everybody.
yes.
As far as you are a telephone user, is the increase of tariff. We saw, I think last week or so, they have been a back and forth concerning the fact that we saw most of these telecommunications coming out. So you know what, the cost of running, I mean, running cost is really, really very high, and we've been maintaining, according to them, they have been maintaining a static cost since 2013. They have not increased their data, they have not increased SMS, they have not increased anything whatsoever. And then we're seeing that right now, they're saying, we cannot continue this way. So they gave a suggestion of about 100%, which you and I discussed and said, I mean, this is very, very outrageous. I mean, that is to say that I will not be sending SMS at maybe 8 naira, or depending on how much it is. Now we're seeing that after back and forth, the federal government said they cannot accept that. We saw where the Minister of Information came out and said, what we're promising you is not going to be beyond 30 to 60%, which you and I discussed it and said it's even still very high. Now we're seeing that after everything has been said and done, the Nigerian Communication Commission said, they have given these telecommunications the go ahead to increase it to 50%, and this is going to take effect from February. Now what that means is that for you making a call, maybe it's going to now be 16 to 18 naira per minute, pending SMS, how it's going to run and all of that. So we have to do the mathematics and all of this, and we know that this is really, really going to affect everybody as far as you make use of the telephone, whether you have an Android phone or not. You will get affected by this, and I know that this is not going to sit well with a number of Nigerians. And I was waiting to hear what do our lawmakers have to say regarding this, because such bills or such laws should not just be passed. There need to be deliberation, there need to be consultations, just the way we saw that of the tax reform. It was not just till date, there's still consultation regarding that. So I'm looking at this one, they're saying February, and I'm wondering, wow, are we supposed to look at how much we're going to spend to feed ourselves, or are we going to be looking at how much it will cost us to communicate with our loved ones and run business? Because a number of businesses right now rely on the internet, because you can't have a physical shop. So your shop right now is through the internet and all of that. So we know what that is going to mean for a number of people in the country.
So that the federal government have never successfully stopped the telcos from increasing their tariff. It's not possible. These are private
They have
businesses. Of
acts.
course, you as the government of Nigeria, you are failing to make sure that your currency is thriving. It's devaluing every day as against the dollar. We at the start of last week, we were seeing the dollar at the official market at 1,535. Well, we are starting this week with 1,551 naira thereabout. So when you are a country, as much as you have privatized communication, telecommunication precisely, what are the things? Where is your role in making sure that life is easy, not only for the consumers, that is your citizens, and even the business people? Is these other factors that you're in charge of? And we are talking about our currency, fuel pump price, and all of that. All of our monetary and fiscal policies are like all together. And so if the Nigerian government have failed to successfully put out policies that will help these businesses, international and local business, then we, the consumers, that is Nigerians, will pay the price dearly for what our government have failed to do. And this is the situation where we are in. So of course, if telcos are coming, the best that NCC can do is to come out and say, you know what, fine, have your tariff hike, but you cannot make it 100. We will not accept 60, make it this, and then they meet in the middle somewhere, and we're seeing that they are meeting at 50%. That is their meeting point. But whether we like it or not, we have seen tariff price double over the years, and it's no news.
Without any,
without
official
anything.
announcements.
Exactly. And then we just wake up to crazy bond rates. We wake up to call rates that are, once upon a time, 100 naira can send you an average of 10 to 12 texts. Now, with this new tariff hike, we are looking at 100 naira. You can take it down to perhaps 8 to 10. I think that's even a little bit above the average of how many text message you could send. But I started saying something earlier. I think this is where we need the Ministry of Digital Economy. We have that ministry, the minister there, and then coming out, that is apart from the digital economy, ITC, and all of that, this is where we need that ministry to wake up and close in the gaps. Because there can be so much in play that will help the life of Nigerians. So what are we going to do? We profile a way. For example, we can start selling there are certain defaults, there are certain settings on your phone that you could send text message, not WhatsApp, not Messenger, not any social media platform text. You can actually send text message using your data. It's possible. So that when you come to the point where you are consuming so much data, it serves for calls on social media platform, meaning your contacts are available there. And then even if it comes to text, whether or not those people have smartphone or not, because your own phone have that settings that allow you to send, that person will receive it either way. And this is what will give birth to us filling in the gap when it comes to our digital economy, because we need to upgrade our digital technology, because we are very, very backward. Because I made mention of certain companies that came and couldn't thrive and let they could be the example of what it's supposed to be right now, where communication, in fact, we can even say goodbye to certain telecommunication because of their poor service. We don't want to drag certain, that's not our business here. But we can say MTN is the most popular, for example. It's everywhere you go actually, but their bond rate is outrageous. You have other players here where in certain regions their network is very good. However, what would I call it?
Coverage.
The offers. Yes, their coverage is very poor. However, their offers are very good. But you see, a good offer and then poor service cannot go hand in hand. Either way, you buy a lot of data and you will end up not using it at the end of the day. And then we can also talk about those that are very good and both in their coverage and even in their, but they are not found in every area and all of that. So we need a balance. Okay, we need a balance. We are now in a digital cell phone time. It is not too late for the government to come into play. We've said that, there are certain things that you shouldn't have let go. But what if we have another digital kind of communication that is solely for Nigerians? Is it possible? Yes. Just like we're talking about our Nigerian Air, for example. Can't we have that there are no private individuals in play here? This is a mixed economy. So it means that the government can also play in business. Exactly. So can the government begin to sit down and say, okay, how can we make communication? In as much as we have sold it out, it looks, but there's something we can do that communication is easy for people in the rural and the urban area, regardless of where they are, that they can find this access to this kind of communication. We earn as a government, it is subsidized, and people have access to it. I don't think it's too late to start certain things in this country, but it always feels the question is, do we have a government and administration or Nigerians entirely that we really sit down and say, okay, you know what, we have made this mistake, we have made that mistake, but 10 years from now, if we begin to correct those mistakes, we can wake up to a better Nigeria, because it is very important. For how long are we going to sit down and be ripped off by all of these telecommunication companies? When it was 2 naira, we said MTN is a ripoff. And today, we're looking at 16 naira to a call and 6 naira to SMS. What are we going to say now? Robbing us in broad daylight or what, and all of that. But who can you blame when even the government are not playing their part as is expected? But it's not too late for the government to start doing certain things. If you are feeling this angle, I think you can start somewhere for the benefit of your citizens.
I feel the government, each time the private sector steps in, the government tends to take 10 steps backward and then just release everything to the private, companies and organizations and individuals. So it's more like whatever an individual or whatever the private sector tends to put, everybody have to go with it. And that's what we say. We clearly remember when we had our own Glow, which was supposed to be indigenous to us.
Yes.
And then we're saying that, just like you rightly mentioned, we have some of this network that they are not everywhere. Some of them, their mass are not even everywhere. So you need to make a particular call. You are traveling to your village and then begin to ask people
You
there,
have to find
which network is good, or at which stone or which tree am I? And it's not supposed to be that. Recently, I've noticed that even some of our networks, sometimes the network keeps seizing, especially
Even
when
in
it's
your
weekend.
house.
Even in your house, that it's meant to have network. You
Yes.
don't. Recently, I saw the end towards I think ending of last year. There was no service whatsoever, especially in the FCT. So you're trying to make a phone call to somebody living over there, and then it's quite difficult. So it's more like they have to live from that particular. And we're talking about the city center, which is supposed to be, so much of network everywhere. So I think that this wouldn't have been painful if Nigeria is actually enjoying good service, coverage, and every other thing that comes with it. Then maybe, just maybe, Nigerians will be able to say, you know what, maybe we can actually consider them. But the services sometimes are quite terrible. You remove your SIM card, you wonder if something is wrong with your phone because network is not in all of that, and it's quite frustrating. But I love the angle where you take it. Let's see where the ICT will step in, and I think this should not just be the business of the Minister of Information. We need other synergy. We need other collaboration coming with other ministries. What can we do to make sure that, you know what, communication is not quite difficult? Maybe we'll go back to when we start writing letters, send it to the post office, and then you wait for the next 2 weeks for your letter to be
your reply.
and receive it. And it's quite bad. We're supposed to be going, forward and not going backward. But it's quite unfortunate. That's the situation we found ourselves. So let's just keep our fingers crossed. Maybe you need to buy all the data and everything you need in January, because you have barely 10 days or so, to the end of this month. So let's just keep our fingers crossed and hope all things work out well. Well, that's how far we can go. Thank you, Rachel, for
You're welcome,
this with
Celine.
me. And thank you as well to our viewers and every other person who made this program a success. We look forward again to doing this together tomorrow. So please do have a lovely day ahead.